Well, I'm not the kind to kiss and tell, but I've been seen with Farrah. I've never.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We are here to talk the first summer blockbuster of the season, The
True.
Fall Guy. The Fall Guy debuted today. Well, actually, tomorrow's the official one, right? But there's
Mhm.
showings today in theaters.
On Thursday,
So
yeah.
we have gone and seen it. We have impressions, we have thoughts, and hey, just to kick off, I think we're off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong, and I had thought like every trailer I had seen for the Fall Guy really turned me off, and I
Mhm.
was not looking forward to this. I was kind of going into it with like not dread, but like whatever.
You
Definitely
were
not
like, fine,
excitement.
if I have to, we'll do it. Yeah.
Exactly. And honestly, like it was a pretty good time with the movies. I had a great time. I thought a lot of it was really fun. The thing is, I feel like the trailers almost. I think maybe the trailers were just bad, honestly, because the trailers had like a lot of lines of dialogue that straight up just weren't in the movie, and it was like the really cringy kind of like Joss Whedon MCU humor lines that actually like
Like the
didn't
whole
make
you
the
want to
cut in
make
the
out.
film.
I'm not into that. I'm into talking and that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't in there. The I always remember a fist. Well, not like that. That wasn't in
Yep.
there. There were like three lines I vividly remember from the trailers that just got cut, and I think like the movie was better for it. So I don't know. I hope I'm glad that it's good, and I hope it does well, which it seems like it's going to because as a person who used to work on sets, obviously nothing to this
Mhm.
scale, but I have a lot of appreciation for some of the unsung heroes of film. So them kind of getting a big moment with this movie is great. And I think it's probably going to teach a lot of folks who don't know the industry as well as we do a lot of stuff about how things go behind the scenes because that was my cat, sorry folks,
You're all
because
right.
a lot of the stuff they show is actually fairly accurate.
Yeah. The This movie is based on or inspired by a TV show from the 80s of the same
Mm-hmm.
name. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, an episode of
I've
it, maybe.
not.
Yeah. It starred Lee Majors as Colt Seavers. Like there are some commonalities between
Oh,
the
okay.
show and the movie. Um, not many. It's very
Yeah.
loosely inspired, right?
Mhm.
So, but I did love this movie's like a secret love letter to A stuntmen and B like 80s stunt shows and stuntmen and
Mhm.
things like that.
For sure.
Um
I thought like they did a pretty good job with like the 80s references, and I think it worked in the tone cuz the movie is very like it's kind of a dad movie. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot
totally.
like it's a hell yeah brother kind of like I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know like a more technical way to describe it. It's like a dude movie. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it was
Yep.
fun, but like I liked that it had a lot of like 80s and like late 70s music that was referenced a lot through it. You know what I mean? So it's just
It was a
like
it was a
it was really
callback to a
cool.
time before, special effects took over a lot of the stunts, right?
Mhm.
And when everything was done in practical ways and there were dangerous stunts being done. The talk about the barrel roll in this movie, by the way, was an actual world record
Oh,
set when
really?
they did it. Yeah, when they did this on set, it was a world record for barrel rolls, like 8.5. Never been done before. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
I mean, it is cool that it happened in a movie about stunt people, and
Yeah,
celebrating that.
for
So
sure.
that is cool. Um, yeah, so it is based on that. The 80s references are strong in this. There's a lot of references to Miami Vice.
Yes,
And there's a
for sure.
moment where, Ryan Gosling's character gets on a boat and takes off into the bay. And this is all set in like Sydney,
Mhm.
Australia. And the Miami Vice music from the 80s kicks in. And
Oh,
it's
I didn't even
just
catch
so,
that,
yeah.
the score. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's so cool. And like you said, it's a dad movie. Like the dads are going to hear that and be like, hell yeah, that's,
Right?
Miami Vice, my childhood, right? And I've really not seen much Miami Vice. I've seen it on like, because it ends up on some of those channels where it's like replayed all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I'm sure it's gonna be pretty cheap to syndicate at this
yeah.
point, right?
Oh yeah. But I've heard the music, right? And so
Mhm.
when you hear that, it's that type of thing. The cool thing about this movie, I guess we'll jump into kind of talking about, is that it's an action movie it's a little bit of a comedy. It's got the romance in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a film about a film, which is talking about tongue-in-cheek the relationship between the characters making the film. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's all referencing itself and each other throughout it.
It's very meta, which
Yeah.
I like and thought was cool. And I was like imagining like the layers of like, because when they were showing like the film sets, because there's scenes that are on the set of a film, right? And you see all the trailers and everything going on. I was wondering, like, do they have another one of those that they're actually using, like, just behind the cameras? Like, are we doing like a inception? That was a bad joke.
Right?
I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
there's layers to it.
Yep. So I thought all that was cool. The action
Mhm.
scenes I thought were fun.
Yes,
So
for sure.
I guess, let's jump in first and talk a little bit story. So this all begins like Colt Seavers is a well-respected actor or stuntman. He does a
Mhm.
stunt in a film for Tom Ryder, a character we will talk about again in a couple minutes. In the
Yep.
choice of name. But he does it, and at the time we think it's an accident. Spoiler alert, later on that might not be the case, but
Right.
he breaks his back in doing a stunt, so he's out of the game. He has a relationship with Emily Blunt's character, who goes on to become the director of this movie like 1 year later.
Yeah.
And
Of a different movie. It's
of a different movie. Yeah, of a
yes,
different
we
movie.
pick up with on the set of a different film,
Mhm.
but it's a lot of the same because we have the same star, the same stunt man, the same producer. And
Yep.
Emily Blunt's character, who was a camera op, is now director.
So Colt gets a call. Colt's working as a valet at like a restaurant or a club or something, and gets a call from the producer. And by the way, anybody named Gail in a 2024 movie is probably not on the good guy's side. Just
Yeah,
saying.
I feel like Gail's got to be like British Karen, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like Gail Weathers gets grandfathered in because
she's
in 96.
she's the goat. Yeah, and that movie is
Yeah.
also at this point almost
But
30 years old. Wow.
Yeah, almost 30 years old. So, but yeah, if you've been around that long, like you get grandfathered in a little bit. But if you're a new Gail in 2024 in movies, then not so much. So, she calls him and gets him to come back to saying that the director, who he still is in love with, wants him, right? They don't have any other choices. So he hops on a plane. He's in Australia right away.
Yeah.
And turns out the director didn't want him there. She sees him for the first time and it's like, what the hell are you doing here? Type of thing. And, the story kind of goes from there. And he finds out that he's been brought in by the producer to find the star of the film who's gone missing.
Yeah.
And the rest of the film is both about making the movie and about repairing the relationship and about finding out what's happening with this whole mystery.
There's a lot more layers to this movie and a lot more plot than I thought it would be. Because from the trailers, I assumed it was going to be really straightforward, just like action movie where he's going to have to like go and fight a bunch of like generic burly bad guys who are involved with drugs or I don't know, whatever criminals.
Kind of like he's been kidnapped and held for ransom or some garbage, and then you got to go find him and get him back, right?
Right. And it's much more like whodunit and sleuthy than that, which I really appreciated because like Ryan Gosling's character is like he's a good action hero and because he's been doing the shit that action heroes are known for. Right, this whole time he's been a stuntman, so he's been taking all the falls and all the punches, doing a lot of the fight choreo, that kind of stuff. But then, like, you see that he's actually like really smart too, and that he's able to kind of deduce things and piece things together and be super resilient. And like, I was like beyond pleasantly surprised. I was honestly shocked how much I liked the characters in this movie.
Me too. I really thought we were going to get a lot of one-dimensional characters, and we didn't.
No, there was a lot of depth and a lot of heart for sure.
What I love most about the way this story was told is that you've got like all these things going on, right? Making the movie, figuring out the whodunit, and repairing this relationship. Those are all big enough things to kind of be its own story and movie.
Absolutely.
But what they do here so well is that in some scenes and sequences, they're advancing multiple, sometimes all three of those things at the same time. and it's
Right.
really effective because not a lot of movies can pull that off.
No,
So it's
for
actually really
sure.
good. And the one that stands out to me is the karaoke scene when he's fighting like on a truck
Mm,
trailer,
yeah.
and the director is singing karaoke and is upset that she thought he was coming.
Hmm.
He isn't there. So she's like singing this song that's meant to say how she feels about him
Yeah.
while he's fighting
Hmm.
to, help her in essence. He's there
Right.
for her.
Right. Right.
So
And I thought that scene like intercut really well, like the
yep.
audio of like the singing versus like the singing of her in the karaoke versus like the licensed song. Like it cut back and forth often, and there are
Mhm.
moments where it was layered really well. And I was like, I don't know, I know this is a movie about stunts, but I was impressed with a lot of the sound stuff too. Like I think just
Yeah.
like impact sounded good, and there was a lot of great choices as far as like music and how it was used. I always love a good needle drop. And there's one that they
Mhm.
teased a classic rock song from like the 70s or 80s that has like its melody is used almost as like a motif throughout the actual like compositions of the score of the movie. And
Yep.
then later in the movie, you finally hear like the original song that everybody knows, and it's kind of iconic,
And
honestly.
the music starts like it kicks off right when the Universal logo hits. Like I felt that
Hmm.
like when
Me
that
too.
the sound that we got right when that logo hit, like I was like, okay, I actually have hopes based on that alone. Like because sound
Sure.
does so much for a movie, good or bad.
Yeah, and there's a
But
lot of like very referential film things. Like I loved
yeah,
that like the the action movie that they're filming is kind of a bit of like everything,
it
but it's
is.
very it's mostly Mad Max and Dune. And like
Yeah,
they cut sometimes where you see like in camera shots or like I guess like finished edited versions. So you'll watch them shoot the film and then you'll see parts of the film edited as if it were something they're actually making. And there's like the one like main song in the soundtrack for the film within the film is totally just like the Dune woman screaming
totally.
when
Yep.
he like puts his hand in the box, and it killed me, dude. Like every time.
Do you remember, when movie stores or video stores were a thing, right? Like your
Mhm.
Blockbusters, Hollywoods, and it was more so that, I mean, B movies still get made, but like I remember especially like Transformers hit theaters, right? And it was a giant hit
Oh
and a lot
yeah.
of people loved it. So then you'd go to Hollywood Video or Blockbuster and you'd see Transmorphers right there, right? And
Hmm.
it looks so much like it. And
Yeah.
honestly, people would probably, excuse me, rent it thinking it was Transformers and, take it home and watch it. But
Right.
the movie that they're making in this movie reminded me of that versus like a Dune or, like you said, Mad Max, right?
Hmm.
Almost like a weird B movie of that,
What
but
was it
also
called
like a big production.
again? It was metal something, metal
Oh,
hearts.
metal shit. I was literally
I
watching this
don't
movie an hour ago.
I know. I don't
Um,
remember the name of it, but I remember like the tagline. It was so funny because it was like it's high noon at the edge of the
High
universe.
Universe, right?
And it's
And the
like,
character even says it in the movie. It's like,
oh
uh,
god, it's so funny.
yeah.
It's good stuff.
And like if they were trying to be, if we were watching that movie seriously, we'd be like, that is so corny and bad. But the fact that they're doing it in this movie about
Being
the movie is
self-aware.
funny. Yeah, it's really
Right,
funny.
for sure.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I will say though the only real negative I have about this movie is the pacing, and I think
mhm,
that's just down to it's weird because it's like it felt slow to me, or there were moments that like I think honestly a lot of the time it was some of the action scenes I think would go a little too long where it didn't have tension. And
sure,
like I get you want to have stakes in a movie, but there's like moments where they try and like make us believe for a couple minutes that like characters are in more danger than they are, or their fate is
right,
something different than what it really is. And I'm just like, okay, like move around. Like this is not like I don't buy this. So like
right.
keep her going. But at the same time, like I don't think you really can cut this movie down a whole lot because a lot of those quieter moments are what make the big ones hit. Like honestly, I
Yep.
was more invested in the relationship between Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling's character than I was in like sitting there for the next action scene, right?
Me too. I really was, and I think like let's talk characters. I guess that's a good segue. And their relationship dynamic, like it starts out almost like any other broken relationship type of movie story starts out, right? Then they come back together somehow and it's awkward, and you have to go through that. There's a really like fun scene where she calls him and she's like, what do you think about split screen in movies as a way to take care of a story issue? And then on our movie screen, the split screen happens and you've got
right while they're on
right?
the phone call.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just, I don't know, it made me laugh. But
yeah,
that scene actually in that conversation got me much more hooked on the relationship angle. And it made me more interested in that than the rest of the stuff going on, including the whodunit, which should have been, you would think, going in the centerpiece of the movie. But
I don't think it was nor needed to be, though.
No, it didn't. And then, it's not a knock on it. It's just I think the trailers make it seem like it's going to be this action-packed movie, and it really has a lot more to it than that at the end of the day. So I really like that. But did you feel like we'll start with the top two names on the marquee, right? Did you feel like they were well cast?
Oh yeah, like their chemistry was absolutely insane. And like they just worked so well together, and I believed them as people who had history and had distinct moments in that, right? Where it was like there's a lot of like subliminals that are they're basically saying like because you can tell like the script that for this alien cowboy movie is she pulled from the truth of her relationship with him, right? And so she's kind of calling him out on set and being like, well, I want you to know the context of this character. So, you have the motivation, but all he's doing is being set on fire and thrown into a rock.
Over and over and over.
Yep. Yeah, like 6 times or something. So they just do. So she's just doing it to be a dick and to embarrass him and put him on blast. But he has a really good kind of way of not clapping back, but like responding to it in a way that's like sincere, but also a little like don't do this right now. Like, don't do this here.
Right.
Like this is not.
Well, where he's like, did the cowboy and the alien ever talk in private?
Yeah. Like, and she gets him a bullhorn. Oh God. So, like I thought her motivations too were really cool beyond just like because I think a lot of times in movies that are about a love story, the woman in the relationship ends up being very much just like a MacGuffin for the lead actor to pursue. I never felt that way about her at all. She had a lot of depth as far as like how she did and didn't participate in the relationship before and then as it evolved, as well as like, some really good flirty banter. But she's also like was very assertive as like in the relationship, but also in her career. Right. So you're kind of rooting for this plot to work because you want her to get to make her movie because you see the passion and the drive she has as a filmmaker. And thank you again, Kat. And how much like just how much energy she has and how much energy she's losing, frankly, to manage this project, right?
And that's Colt's motivation for it too. And that's another thing that's changed, I think, in some storytelling is like, it's always the woman should want to give up all the career success in order to be in the relationship, right? And have love and all that. Where he's like wanting her more than anything, more than at times she wants to finish this movie, have her moment and all of that.
Right. And I like that.
Which I think is cool.
Yeah, I like that dynamic and how it kind of flips traditional gender roles. Because as like there is a very clear structure of power within a film set. Yeah. And she is way below him at the point where the majority of the movie takes place. I would say they're probably about even in the beginning because they're both kind of the unsung crew of a film set. But then, when they reunite, she's very much like she's leading a presumably blockbuster, space epic. So yeah, it's interesting. And I don't know. I'm just shocked at how well I bought that they had chemistry and how much it's like, it's funny because it's like, I think everyone around them was cast so well too. Cause it's almost like there's a really tongue-in-cheek line in Barbie where like Margot Robbie is talking about like how she doesn't feel like she's pretty or enough, and like it pauses, the narrator's like, we understand how ridiculous this sounds coming from Margot Robbie's mouth, just like hear us out.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this very much could have been in that of like, well, Ryan Gosling is like he's kind of like it right now, right? Like, how is he the subordinate? But I think their casting was really smart of having Aaron Taylor Johnson opposite him, who's like a very handsome, very masculine, very gruff, up and coming, that like he's in this weird part in his career where he's been in a lot of really great stuff and done great in it. But there's also rumors of him potentially being like James Bond and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, I think we're right at the cusp of like Aaron Taylor Johnson about being about to explode success wise.
And he was fun in this. Like, he plays this character really well. I mean, you're meant to very much dislike his character, which is pretty easy to do. He does a good job.
You do. Yeah.
But
and they oh, sorry. I was gonna say, like, they do, like, the actor to stuntman relationship. Like, there's a couple scenes where they're next to each other and they're both in the same hair and outfit. And you're like, they kind of nailed that. Like, they
really did.
It works.
Yeah. Before we move to other characters, I guess we'll transition sort of into Gail, but to hit on what you said, like, a lot of times the woman is the MacGuffin in the story. They reference that here because I forget what Gail called it when they first talked in Gail's trailer, and he's like, why am I really here? And she was telling him a story about something, and she had a term that she referenced, and it was basically like a MacGuffin, but she called it something else. And he's like, she was my whatever this was, right? And she's like, she was that the whole time to get you here, basically, right? So
yes,
she's
oh, it was
nod to that.
It was the bacon, because she's talking about she's talking about how, like, I don't know, the average movie going audience are hogs, and you got to dress things up with bacon or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's like magic bacon or something like that. I don't remember, but anyway, there's a reference to that. But Gail's character is also played very well, I think, in this. And
oh god, she's great.
Yeah,
incredible.
She kind of gets that. She nails that Hollywood like aloofness that I think there's a stereotype, or maybe deserved, I don't know, but there with producers, but also this very like attitude of like nothing matters except the movie getting made and protecting the star, which I think is also probably, you know, fairly accurate,
realistic in some situations. And I think that was cool casting too, because I think like historically that kind of role of like the uppity, or that's not the right word, but like, you know, the uptight is what I meant to say, like the very uptight, like stern, careless corporate authority figure usually is like a really old man. And it being a woman in her 40s is like, I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool, and I think she was perfect for the role because like I mean, as y'all can see, I'm a very big Ted Lasso fan. And she kind of plays that sort of character in Ted Lasso as well. At least that's where she starts emotionally in Ted Lasso, where it's like she's running the football club, but she's trying to run it into the ground, like deliberately. Right. Yeah. So it's like she's very good at playing that like authoritative, professional, but like, because she's very put together, she's very professional, but she also like plays so dirty, which I appreciate. You know, I don't think I've ever seen someone do shit that crooked in a pantsuit. You know, it's pretty impressive.
I think we got to call it the real hero of the movie too. Is it Jean-Claude or Jean-Paul, the dog?
Jean-Claude, because it's named after Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yep. So that dog steals the show a couple of times.
The goat. Yeah. And they set it up really well too.
They did. They're in a chase scene, and he takes time to like put the seatbelt on the dog, and that was funny. That got a laugh in the theater, and it was great. And it's almost like he and the dog were having a conversation while in this truck.
Oh, for sure.
And it made me laugh because I've actually just been getting caught up on The Boys. Like, that was a show I never watched a lot of, and I actually just got the episode where The Deep is like trying to help the dolphin escape, and he's talking.
Oh
They're
my
having the conversation.
God.
So
So you're early.
I'll
That's
be.
still season 1,
Oh yeah,
isn't it?
very. It's season 1. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That scene ended very differently than things ended for Jean-Claude, but
Thankfully.
yeah,
Jean-Claude is the fucking goat.
Jean-Claude's great, and
He
Jean-Claude
really
saves
is.
the day many a time actually in this movie.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's that was cool too. So if you're a dog person and you like movies where the dog like gets involved and actually doesn't get killed as a story plot device,
Yeah.
you'll enjoy yourself.
And I love the thing of like all the like the joke about like all the commands being in French,
Right.
and like they reference the fact that it's like one of the commands, like he's been trained to like attack someone in like the genital area.
Mhm.
And then that's used several times, but then also
Yep.
like the dog kind of just learns like when it's appropriate to do that, where there's times where
Yep.
he's not even commanded and he's just like, fuck it, man, like we gotta get in there, like
Mhm.
we got a job to do. And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
It's
Let's
funny
talk
because
about.
there's
Go ahead.
sorry, I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna
Go
real
ahead.
quick. There's almost like a coworker dynamic between them.
Yes.
Because like they've worked together on films before. So he
Mhm.
sees the dog and he recognizes him, but he recognizes him like, oh, like that's this guy I worked with a couple years ago, which
Yep.
is, it's funny. It's
It
really good
was.
stuff.
I thought it was a great addition to the film. Like it didn't need to be there, but I thought it
No.
worked really well.
Mhm.
And yeah, so let's talk the character of Tom Ryder, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and who this character sometimes references. So a lot of the themes going on in this movie are about this movie's a love letter to stuntmen and the work that they do, and they're the unsung heroes or unsung heroes in Hollywood productions, and
Yes.
and it really rips into actors a few times who claim that they do all their own stunts and try to steal the spotlight from
Yeah.
them. Now, I think they made it very, very clear who was the target of a lot of the angst here. I think Mr. Tom Cruise, first of all, starting with, the character's name is Tom Ryder and versus Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
He claims he does all his own stunts. He actually does something very bad when his stuntman challenges him on it at one point.
the character does, not Tom Cruise. We're not
Yeah, the character. Yeah.
alleging Tom Cruise has ever hurt
Yeah.
anybody. I don't know. It's possible.
The character Tom Ryder is challenged by a stuntman at one point in this film and does, something not so nice. And yeah, but it's referenced like repeatedly, and Tom Cruise's name gets name dropped in this movie.
Yeah, several times. And it's funny the way they call it out too, because it's in reference to deep fakes. They're talking about deep fakes, and they're like, oh yeah, like you can just CGI Tom Cruise's face over yours. And like he even says, the stunt guy says, like, yo, can you put Tom Cruise's face over me? Like, thank you, appreciate it. And like I didn't catch it until later that I was like, oh, they're like this is like a diss track. Like they're saying, like, we know you do that. Like we know that you are fucking deep fake. We know we know people got dots on their face. And they project you onto there.
It's meant to be really subtle enough where they can say, no, we're not accusing you of that. But
they are.
They bring up how honestly shitty it is that actors say that stuff and take what little spotlight stuntmen get away from them. And then name drop him enough times that while they're talking about these things, you're connecting Tom Cruise to it. So
it's the subliminals.
And it was well done, I think, and it's probably going to piss him off, and that's okay.
Do you think he's going to clap back? And is this going to become like the Drake versus Kendrick of the film industry, where we're going to have like people who do their own stunts or who allege they do their own stunts versus like the hardworking blue collar fall guys?
Well, Cruise has a reputation of being a bit of a perfectionist and can be very belligerent on set towards the crew. Yeah. And I think that, Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds, etc., that's the new generation of leading men that's, taking over for somebody like Cruise, who is still hanging on, right? He's 60 years old and still making like super blockbusters. But
he's 60, damn.
Yeah, he's like 60.
That's crazy.
So, but I think that this is their way of saying like, hey, we don't do stuff this way necessarily.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Like, you know, I mean, Tom Cruise has had a ton of success, right? We're not here to like trash his movies because I think Tom Cruise knows how to make action movies pretty damn well. But I do think there's a point to be made about constantly claiming like you do all your own stunts.
Yeah, and it should go without saying that it's never worth sacrificing like the safety or well-being of anybody else to bolster yourself or to make a product. And I think like we've gotten a lot better about, you know, creating safe work environments, not just in film sets, but also just in general, where people, you know, no matter where on the structure they are, feel like they're being valued and are, you know, able to kind of shape the vision of where whatever they're making is going. And I think Ryan Gosling, especially, and the other Ryans, and like I don't know why, but in my mind, when people say the Ryans, I also think of Paul Rudd. Like Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds, and Paul Rudd are all just like together.
Which Ryan is your favorite?
Dude, Gosling. It's not even close. I
even,
don't know.
Even with Reynolds doing like Deadpool and what was it, Free Guy or whatever?
I'm sure we'll get into it more. Well, we will get into it more like later in the summer when Deadpool comes out. But like Deadpool's Homer's humor has not really worked for me in the past.
Okay.
So, and I don't like that's just a taste thing. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. Was the trailer for that on for you, by the way, today?
No, but I did get the Planet of the Apes trailer, which you and Steven were talking about. I finally got it for the first time, and I saw the May 10th up there, and I'm like, oh shit, I have like 8 days to watch like 3 of these things.
Watch all the stuff, right?
Yeah. So I gotta, I
got a lot of watching stuff to do in the next like literally week, and I'm sitting here watching The Boys. Like, what am I doing? Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, let's talk action because you know it is at its heart a summer action movie. I think the action scenes are pretty well done, and they're very like diversified. Like we don't just get a ton of the same thing.
Oh yeah. Setting changes. What kind of action we get changes.
We get a big like chase scene. We get a chase scene in cars. We get a chase scene in boats. We get the like mostly fist, you know, hand to hand combat scene in the home or whatever of the star.
Yeah, it is apartment.
But at the end, I loved it when we get all the stuntmen involved, and the stuntmen had their like Avengers Assemble moment.
They did, man,
and it was so cool. it was fun.
It was good stuff, yeah. And I think there's a really good like crescendo of what kind of stunts we're seeing, right? Where it's like we get some cool stuff in the beginning, where we get like the big fall, and then we get the like there's that apparently record-breaking car crash, which I thought was a really fun scene to watch. But then there's also like, you know, there's like a very there's the apartment scene is very John Wick to me. With all of like the combination like hand-to-hand plus gun combat. I think what do people call that? Gun kata. I think it's actually like considered like a mixed martial art at this point. But there's a lot of that going on, and then you get like, you know, just. Oh god, my favorite fight in the whole movie was the one when he's like he starts tripping out in the club because they give him a Shirley Temple, but then they spike it with like hallucinogens. Where they're like, you don't want to drink, we'll show you, motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yep. And it's like
it's so good.
The fight scene is great, but then he's like, how long is this going to last? And he's like, well, when you stop seeing a unicorn, you're okay. And the best part is like for the next 20 minutes. Yeah, the next like 20 minutes of the movie, there's a unicorn like everywhere. And it's
in the background of every shot, pretty much. Yep. And even in the foreground sometimes, like he'll just be like taking a phone call and there's just one right next to him and he's like, I'm not acknowledging this shit. But yeah, I loved that scene, and I'm realizing now that we're talking about it that it's very much like I feel like this movie is a tribute, like in a crash course almost of stunt and fight and action history, because I feel like you're getting a lot of things. Because now that I think about it, like the club fight where he's on the drugs, so as he's punching people, you see like almost like comic book looking pops and flashes and effects like that. Very much reminded me of like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. you know, so you get like, I feel like each action scene moves us through like another decade of film fight history, which is, it's smart. I'm talking myself up on this movie. The more I think about it, I'm like, damn, this was really clever.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I feel like this movie is like a lot better than it probably had any right to be.
Yes.
And a lot better than you are gonna probably think you're getting when based on the trailers when you go in. It's
Yeah.
rare that a trailer kind of undersells a
Yeah.
movie, but this one did. I
It
feel.
really did. Yeah, because I thought this was gonna be like an average to below average movie from the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's, I don't know. I think it's weird to me where I feel like a lot of times movie trailers lately have been instead like instead of selling the movies on their merit and how intelligent they are and the fact that they do have things to say and there is legitimate heart there, like they do the opposite where they're like, no, this is like a really simple action blockbuster, which I'm sure probably works, right? And it's a lot easier to get that in a 30-second TV spot than to, you
And I
know.
feel like things are filmed specifically for trailers, and that's actually referenced in this film twice.
And
For
they definitely did it.
yeah,
They 100% did it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they talk about filming sequences that are going to be perfect for Comic-Con, and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's brought up a couple different times.
The
And
Comic-Con
it's
Hall H shot.
Hall
Yep.
H, yep. And yeah, I mean this movie is smart in a lot of ways, but also it's a like celebration of movies and a critique of them at the same time, but a loving critique, right? It is a
Yeah.
so I loved all of that but the action sequences are great. And you're right, like there's a sampling of all the different types of stunts that stuntmen do, including the huge explodey ones and stuff like, I don't want to call it simple, but the just the thing where you like get hit by the car and you roll off the windshield, type of thing. Like that's here too.
Yeah.
All of that. So yeah, and everything in between. So there is a lot going on here. Do you feel like this is a good start to summer season? Like, would you say like this is a good kickoff?
Yeah. I mean, I think for a summer blockbuster, yeah. Like I don't think necessarily it will be like a massive standout. And I don't know how much people are going to talk about it later, but I think it sets the tone for a really good, just that, it has a fun vibe, it has a fun energy. Like it is a very summery film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like at the end of the year, when we're talking like best movies of the year, like this isn't going to be something that is like front of mind. But I bet we're sitting there saying, you know what, I had fun with that, and I think it deserves to be mentioned somehow.
Yeah, I think like if we were to do like a tier list of every movie we've seen so far this year, like I think this would be in the top half.
For sure. Oh, easily.
Yeah.
This is the most pleasantly surprised I've been. All the movies we've seen this year.
Yeah.
For me. So and it wasn't like my bar was super low going in. I think yours was a little lower than mine.
Yeah.
But my bar wasn't but my bar wasn't high either. Right. And it cleared it very easily, to be honest. So I'm really happy with this as a start to summer. I think it's a good way to start summer because it is it's got a lot of layers to it, but it's also at its core just a fun movie,
Yeah, for sure. And I do think though, like the only thing with it that I think will affect it later down the road is I don't want to say it feels disposable, but I feel like it's very much a moment, and I think it's very much a movie that you get a better experience by being in theaters, by seeing the stunts on the big screen, and just like it's a movie about cinema and about film. So being in a theater, I think helps.
And it's a movie about the stunt moments, right? So
yeah. Sure. But I feel like it's not going to be really rewatchable. Is my thing, just because of the nature of the plot is very much unraveling a mystery. So I think that you kind of know, it won't be as fun unless there's clues early in the journey.
Were you surprised by like the reveal, or did you kind of figured out a lot of it?
I mean, we're in full spoilers at this point. What reveal specifically?
Yeah. So where you find out that Tom is the the person who's, you know, the bad guy, and really that Gale is the one who orchestrated.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, because I thought it was just gonna be that he was just like I thought like the trouble he was gonna be in was like some dumb playboy shit where he just like owed money and when they were flipping through the phone, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, just because of the state of the world right now. But when they were flipping through the phone, like looking for dirt on him, I'm like, it's gonna be a sex scandal.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a sex scandal or like I don't know, like an accidental like nude leak.
Right.
But it wasn't that.
So-
It was something much more, I don't know, much more fitting, I guess, of like a mystery movie where it was like, you know.
I was surprised by the
foul
Tom
play.
part. I was surprised by the Tom part, but you know, I mean, I guess if you're gonna hammer on, you know, the other Tom all movie very indirectly, you might as well make him the villain too, of the whole thing. But I kind of caught on to the Gale part early, that she was involved somehow, some way.
Okay.
She wanted him there, and then she wanted him gone, right? And
Right.
all that type of thing, and she just constantly was trying to redirect a lot of stuff.
She was definitely suspicious. Like, I was suspicious of her before I was of Tom.
Yeah.
So
I put the score up on the screen early, so it's been sitting there for a couple minutes. But I think we talked ourselves in this to bumping it up a little bit. So I did.
okay.
So our final score is 7.5 out of 10. And I think that's fair.
I do too. I think that's accurate.
This movie is trending on like Rotten Tomatoes in the low to mid 80s. I think it's an 84 right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild to me because that means like for it to be an 84, it means a decent amount of people have had to give this a 9. And like, I don't know if I.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes is a little different. It's just positive versus negative reviews. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm not sure what the Metacritic is. I'm guessing a little lower. I'd guess in the 70s probably, but
yeah, I'm going to check that right now while we're still here because I'm just curious to compare that against.
I personally 73. Like going with 73. I mean, that makes sense, but so we're really close. I feel like Rotten Tomatoes, I actually prefer that because I like just looking at what percentage of reviews are positive on this movie and what percentage are not. Right? Because I think a lot of places get caught up in like what exact score are we going to give something, and it's all very like number focused. And I just, is it good or not? Is it fun or not? Right? And seeing that like 85 or 84% are generally positive.
In this case,
I'm good. So. Yeah, I feel like it's a good start to summer. I think it's a lot of fun. Check it out if you know, you have some time. There's probably better movies coming this summer, to be perfectly honest, but I think it's a good start and it's fun. You will not, I think, regret going to see The Fall Guy. Last thing to stay for the credits. Like, stay
you
for
get some fun behind the scenes stuff in there,
and you get to listen to the entire intro song to the television show from the 80s at the beginning of the credits.
Oh, that's what that track was that was playing? I didn't realize that. That's
a little bit of that country type twang, you know, that type of thing. Yeah, that is the theme song for the show. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a love letter to 80s like action shows, in particular movies too.
Yes.
But just the stuntmen that made all that stuff come to life, and it's cool. Like you know, I'm happy with the time spent doing it. So next one of these, are we revisiting Phantom Menace? Is that what we're doing?
Ooh, I think we definitely should, but that would have to be after May 4th, unfortunately, just for logistics for us. But I definitely want to go see that in a theater, have that experience.
So we'll do that, and then because the actual 25th anniversary of that movie is coming up in like 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, it's mid to late May, I think. Right.
So and then we've got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes next week.
What a title.
Yeah, it's a lot. And also, I don't know if you're gonna go see it. I'm gonna try to find a way to see Tarot. I want to, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to see that one, like, to be able to review it in a timely manner, but it's definitely on my radar. But I'm trying to play catch up this weekend because I'm going to see Challengers tomorrow because I didn't get a chance to, and it's
we'll try, even if we don't do video reviews of things like Challengers and of Tarot, we'll try to get like written reviews on the site. You check those out as well. Okay, leave comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff for all the latest in movies. We'll be doing a lot of these for all the summer movies coming out this year.
For sure.
Plus stuff on gaming, entertainment, more, all of it. We got things like Summer Game Fest coming next month. And
oh yeah,
just a lot of other stuff going on that we'll have. Also, if you're a wrestling fan and still watching this, thank you. We will be doing live watch alongs of all the WWE pay-per-views, including the this weekend Backlash from Lyon, France, which is perfect considering Jean-Claude. I wonder if Jean-Claude the dog is going to make an appearance.
Ooh,
Lyon, France. Especially, I would love to see that command given like in the middle of the match.
Attack it, yeah, and he goes,
yeah, and just have him go like, you know, clamp down.
Jeez.
Right. So anyway, all right, let's get out of here. Enjoy the Fall Guy, everybody. Hopefully you enjoy it if you go see it. And like the video, subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Take care, y'all. Have a good night.